So it's raining outside, and am I the only one that kind of wants to just... Okay, just kidding. Well, sort of, but I can explain. So on a rainy day like today, I want to have tteokboki. It's a Korean dish with rice cakes, fish cakes, gochujang, and some other ingredients, and it just hits. But I have a big problem. I've had some rice cakes. They have been cryogenically frozen in my freezer, but I may have forgotten about them. And we've got issues. Like some of these guys are broken and split, they're freezer burned, and ooh, they smell like my freezer. I don't think they're gonna make a good stew today. It's probably best to send them out to the pasture. But hear me out. I've got a solution for this.
Today's recipe is brought to you by the Korean National Academy of Agricultural Sciences. Unless you can somehow find wet ground rice flour at your grocery store, you're gonna have to make your own. The process is pretty simple. Put sushi or short grain rice into a bowl and then cover it with water. The amount of water does not matter as long as it's covered. We test the readiness of the rice by its friability, a term mostly used by brewers and pharmacists. Friability is how easily something breaks up into small pieces. This goldfish cracker here is extremely friable. I can crush it and break it into small pieces. To test the rice, rub a few grains into the palm of your hand. After 6 to 8 hours of soaking, it should break up easily into small pieces. Rice that isn't ready is rather sharp and can actually hurt. Once it's ready, dry the rice for 30 minutes. Grind the rice down to a flour using a mill or a food processor. It should look something like this after. It can still be pretty coarse, it doesn't have to be a fine grind. We're going to be putting this rice flour through a sieve anyways. I have one of these hand crank ones, and it's going to make a bit finer and more even powder. The purpose of the sieve is to ensure that we have a somewhat homogeneous particle size. The flour ends up feeling like a rather coarse sand rather than typical flour. It will end up looking something like this. You can end up storing any excess flour in your freezer. It'll keep for, I don't know, indefinitely. We want the dough to be about 80% flour and 20% water by weight. Every 10 grams is going to yield about 1 rice cake. I usually shoot for about 100 grams per plate. Mixing this together does yield quite a soupy mess, so I usually pop this in the microwave for about 10 seconds. Once it's out of the microwave, I transfer it to a steamer basket and steam for 10 minutes. You could in theory cook this completely using the microwave, however I find those pretty unpredictable and can ruin the dough by heating it up too much. Alright, the timer's done. It's ready to pull this guy off of the burner. And now is the really fun and important part for this recipe. So we gotta move quick before the rice cake cools down. I'm gonna take a dowel and beat this into submission. I don't have any downstairs neighbors, so lucky me, and more importantly, lucky them. After 5 minutes of pounding the dough with a dowel or a mallet, you can roll it out into your rice cake shape. Use a knife, bench scraper, or scissors to cut the dough at an angle and give the rice cakes their iconic look. 100 grams gives about 10 rice cakes. Now I bet you haven't seen that before. Well, we've got enough rice cakes for the meal. They don't need to be cooked after we have done this. They're not like rice cakes that you bought from the store that are dehydrated. These, fresh, can be eaten just like this. I usually drizzle some fermented pot honey on a few as a pre-dinner snack. The rest of the rice cakes can then be added to some tteokboki. You don't need to cook these rice cakes. As the tteokboki is cooking, they are a last-second addition, and you just want to toss it in and coat them with the sauce. Oh man, that's really good. Thanks for watching. I'm going to go chow down on this. I'll catch you later.